Have you ever paused for a moment in the middle of chaos and asked yourself, who is really in control here? Is it the world with all its noise and unpredictability? Or is it you, your mind, your thoughts, your choices? Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers and emperor of Rome, once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." At first glance, these words may seem too simple, but buried within them is a treasure, a weapon, a shield, a way of life. In a world overflowing with distractions, expectations, and uncertainty, Marcus offers something profoundly rare: clarity, the ability to see the difference between what we can control and what we cannot, and to build our inner peace around that truth. Marcus Aurelius wasn't a detached philosopher sitting in a quiet garden. He was an emperor. He ruled during wars, political betrayal, natural disasters, and the death of loved ones. His world was turbulent, uncertain, and cruel. And yet he wrote with calm, with purpose, and with deep self-awareness. He chose to master not the empire first, but himself. And that's where the journey begins for us too. Let's start with the first idea. You cannot control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond. This sounds obvious, and yet how many times do we let circumstances dictate our emotions? Someone cuts us off in traffic. We erupt. A friend forgets to call. We feel abandoned. We lose a job. A relationship ends. Plans fall apart. And suddenly our entire identity shatters. But Marcus reminds us that suffering doesn't come from the event itself. It comes from our interpretation of the event. The insult is not what wounds us. Our pride does. The failure is not what destroys us. Our fear of judgment does. The delay, the obstacle, the heartbreak, they are all neutral until we assign meaning to them. So the real battlefield is not out there. It's within us. It's the conversation we have with ourselves in silence. That's where our power lies. Now imagine living with that truth in your bones. Imagine not being rattled by the news cycle, by someone else's opinion, or by unexpected detours. Imagine waking up each morning and saying to yourself, "I do not control the world, I only control my mind." And that is enough. This is the beginning of freedom. Not the kind of freedom that's printed on flags, but the kind that cannot be taken from you. Not by poverty, not by loss, not even by death. Let's take it deeper. Your thoughts shape your reality. Marcus wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." What does that mean? It means if your mind is constantly replaying fears, bitterness, comparison, and envy, you're painting your soul with those colors. Your entire experience of life begins to filter through a lens of darkness. You stop seeing what's beautiful. You start expecting the worst. You trust less. You love less. You live less. But if you guide your thoughts, not blindly, but intentionally, you can begin to rewire your perception. You start noticing gratitude in the small things. You see failure as a teacher, not a curse. You accept impermanence without panic. You stop resisting reality and you start working with it. This isn't about toxic positivity. It's not about ignoring pain. In fact, the Stoics teach us to look pain in the eye and not flinch, to say, "Yes, this hurts, but it is not who I am." It's about choosing to stand still in the storm, not because the storm is gone, but because you have found your center. Now ask yourself, who is narrating your life right now? Because your mind is always speaking. It's always running commentary. But most of us never stop to question the voice. Where did it come from? Why is it so critical? Why is it afraid? Why does it assume the worst? And more importantly, is it telling the truth? Marcus Aurelius kept a personal journal, which we now call Meditations. It wasn't written for the world. It was written as a mirror, a reminder, a tool to train his own mind. He questioned his thoughts. He wrote about death, about anger, about leadership, about loss, and he came back again and again to this: The only thing in our control is how we think, how we choose, how we respond. So how do we apply this today? Begin with awareness. When you feel triggered, ask, is this within my control? If it is, act with courage. If it's not, let it go. It sounds small, but this one habit can change your life. Someone insults you. Is their opinion within your control? Number, but your reaction is. You fail at something important. Is the past within your control? Number, but your next step is. You're stuck in traffic. A meeting gets canceled. A plan falls apart. Are these events in your control? Number, but how you interpret them, that's entirely up to you. Another way to practice is to journal your thoughts. Not just once in a while, but daily. Ask yourself, what am I afraid of right now? What am I resisting? What thoughts are dominating my mind? Then challenge them, test them, strip them of their drama. You'll be surprised how often you've been arguing with a phantom. Also, practice voluntary discomfort. The Stoics would do things like walk barefoot in the cold, sleep on hard floors, or eat plain food, not to punish themselves but to train their minds. To remind themselves, I can endure this. I don't need comfort to survive. I don't need everything to go my way to be at peace, because peace isn't found in the absence of hardship. It's found in how we carry ourselves through it. Marcus also said, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In other words, the obstacle is not something to avoid. It's something to use. The setback is the teacher. The resistance is the gym. The pain is the chisel that shapes you. And when you live this way, something shifts. You stop seeing life as something happening to you and start seeing it as something happening for you. Even when it hurts, especially when it hurts, you begin to understand that you are not your emotions. You are the observer of them. You are not your circumstances. You are the responder to them. And in that space between what happens and how you respond, that is where your freedom lives. So what would your life look like if you lived with this wisdom every day? If you greeted the morning not with dread, but with calm presence? If you faced uncertainty not with panic, but with readiness? If you treated every setback not as a curse, but as a doorway? It doesn't mean you won't feel pain. It doesn't mean you won't struggle. It means you will no longer be a slave to those moments. You will be the master of your mind and therefore the master of your life. So the next time life feels overwhelming, remember this. You cannot control the storm, but you can control your ship. You cannot control others, but you can govern your response. You cannot change the past, but you can shape your future, thought by thought, choice by choice. This is the true power Marcus Aurelius spoke of. Not control over the world, but over your mind. And when you truly realize this, not just understand it, but embody it, you will find a strength the world cannot touch. You don't need to be a philosopher. You don't need to be an emperor. You just need to wake up each day and remember, the mind is your kingdom. Rule it well. If this message spoke to you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Mind Odyssey, and share your thoughts in the comments. Let's explore the wisdom of the ages together.